So I've had a couple discussions in my men's Facebook group about decisiveness and why is decisiveness a masculine trait? Like, of course, women should be decisive too at times, but like, there's something inherently masculine and related to men with making decisions. I mean, even when I was in Marines OCS, like something they drilled in us is you have to learn how to make decisions. I was in school. I was officer candidate school to be a lieutenant of Marines. Like, as leading Marines in combat, which is a particularly masculine environment, they drilled into our heads, it's better to make the wrong decision than to make no decision. Like, it will actually result in winning a battle or saving lives and things like that. And this certainly is true in various aspects of life. I mean, the very common joke is man and woman going out to dinner, and like she's like, where do you want to eat? You know, whatever. You know, the whole thing of like, where do you want to eat? I don't care. But then she gets upset that he doesn't make a decision or doesn't. You know, like there's something important about decisiveness, and there's a few reasons for this. One is that the masculine, the testosterone-fueled characteristics in a sexually polarized relationship is about handling material reality. The feminine side, the oxytocin, serotonin, estrogen-driven characteristics, don't want to have to deal with that. They want to deal with their feelings, and that's the beauty of a sexual polarized relationship. One person is specializing in handling the material world and guiding the ship. The other person is giving the fuel and the emotional content for both people to experience. Now, decisiveness goes deeper, and it's even has applications outside of relationships. As an individual man, even if you're not in a relationship or you're gay or whatever, it doesn't actually matter. If you are a masculine person or you want to cultivate the masculine side of your psyche for whatever reason, you have to learn how to make decisions. And it's better to make the wrong decision than to make no decision, because this comes down, for men, it comes down to going from boy to man. So there's a Jungian is in Carl Jung, psychologist, term called the Puer Aeternus, which is Latin for the infinite boy or infinite child. And when you're in a state where you don't want to make decisions, you're basically daydreaming the way a child does. Like, a child will daydream of like, oh, now I'm a pirate, now I'm a spaceman, now I'm a whatever, and they're doing all these different things. And it's one of the beautiful sides of being a child. And that element in us, the inner child archetype, wants to hold on to all these fantasies and without committing to them. Like, they're all in the realm of possibility. Like, when you're 5 years old, you can be whatever you want when you grow up. But when you're 30, you have to be something. Maybe it could be a few things, but you have to like actually materialize it. At 30, to say, when I grew up, I'm going to be such and such, is silly. I mean, no one wants to date a guy who's like, when I grow up, you know? There's something about going into a man where you are now, instead of having the realm of infinite possibilities where anything can happen, you're now collapsing the wave function of time and space, and like, this is what's happening now. This is actually what's happening now. Something's being materialized. And this is something that has been inherent in human groups for thousands and thousands of years. It is something archetypal in us, and this is why we had rites of passage in tribal times. You see this in indigenous societies still, in pre-agricultural societies, specifically for men. So what typically would happen is that in most tribes, in most societies, the children would be with their mothers mostly up until puberty, and then around puberty, the tribal elders, the men of the tribe, take the boys away from their mother, away from the emotional nurturing place of their mother, and put them through some sort of challenge. It could be a challenge, a rite of passage that has them battle nature, some sort of physical hardship, vision quest, fasting, something that really challenges their bodies. And there's a reason for this, because the masculine side of the psyche, the testosterone-fueled characteristics, is for fighting and winning, right? Everything masculine that's a trait, the root purpose for a tribe, for a collective, for a sexually polarized relationship, for a family, is that those people with that testosterone flowing through their body are meant to handle and be able to overcome opposing forces, nature, enemies, game, whatever. And when a boy has this surge of testosterone in puberty, and it still happens because we haven't evolved beyond our ancestors 10,000 years ago physically, when a boy has this surge of testosterone, he has this power. He has this ability to fight and win, and he can use that power for good or for evil. We see this in society now. I mean, there's boys doing terrible things, there's boys creating stuff. Unfortunately, there's more boys doing terrible things, or maybe outletting that into video games where they can get their jollies and satisfy their testosterone impulses without actually doing anything. Anyway, that's another thing. So the point of the rite of passage is that the men who are already men, the tribal elders, the adult men, would challenge or put this boy through a challenge. So as he comes into his power, his hubris is humbled. And what happens is after he goes through this challenge, and we see this in modern times in military hazing or fraternity hazing, it's kind of like in some cases an immature attempt at recreating this primal archetypal rite of passage. What happens is the boy returns to the tribe as a man. He's now aware of the inner fortitude that he's developed going through puberty. Like he's had to dig deep, whether it's fighting the cold or battling a wolf or hunting or going days without eating or whatever it is. He's recognized he has this really deep power, but he's been humbled and in some ways humiliated, so that when he comes back to the tribe, he realizes that he needs other people and he is needed by other people. And the whole point of this rite of passage is that when he comes back, he no longer identifies as a solitary ego that thinks he's hot shit, but now identifies with the collective consciousness. So when he has an impulse as a man to fight, to win, to conquer, to dominate, it's not antagonistic to the tribe. He's actually doing it on behalf of the tribe because he now identifies as one piece of the tribe. Now, in modern times, we most of us live in a capitalist society, in a consumerist society where individualism and separateness is championed. We all live in our separate apartments in metropolitan areas. We're not really connected to our tribe. Still, there's this deep-rooted psychic need deep in our psyche for this thing. And I see this in my clients a lot, especially younger guys who've found success with money or found success with women or found success with both, because for most modern guys, we don't have tribal elders who will pull us out into nature and take us away from our coddled mothers or the mothering of society. Consumerism keeps us as children, so we keep buying shit. We don't have that experience necessarily. So for most guys, what naturally happens is some sort of challenge comes upon them, usually internal, and it's usually something material, like they're lonely and they're not getting laid enough, or they're not making enough money and they're poor and they can't satisfy their material needs, both of which are base desires, but they're real material and genuine desires that tie to that deep inner need that most men have, people have, but I'm talking about the male experience here. And that forces them to go through a journey. That was my case with loneliness and socializing and women, and eventually figuring out money and business. And this is what I see with most guys. Like when I see a younger guy who's frustrated and in this sense of existential angst over money and women, I'm kind of happy because I know that's going to drive him to go on a hero's journey to actually dig out his internal fortitude, even if he doesn't have a tribal elder or a mentor to guide him. The problem is when you meet a guy who somehow figured that out quickly without having to dig deep and recognize his internal fortitude. The only thing for most guys that will allow that is some sort of crisis. And you can see this in movies where there's a guy who's got things figured out. Like one I'm thinking of is Tom Cruise in Rain Man. Like the guy is successful, he's happy, he has all this stuff, and then his little brother, Dustin Hoffman, is now under his care and he has to dig deep and go through this emotional journey. You can wait if you're in a situation where you don't have any material problems that can force you into an internal struggle, force you into in a hero's journey, give you that call to adventure. You might have to wait for a battle, or you might have to wait for a crisis, because the testosterone in you, the archetypal male in you, that hero in you wants to go on a journey, wants to battle something. I think this is one of the major causes of so much angst for men, particularly young men. We have this warrior in us, but there's no battles to fight. And guys will find this in getting overly obsessed with politics or fighting for a cause that maybe doesn't really matter, or doing something terrible like shooting up a school. I think that might be an exaggeration, but these are coming from deep-rooted angst that men have. So what do you do instead of outletting it into some weird thing or waiting for a crisis to have? You can create your own rite of passage. If you don't have any personal issues that need solving, you don't have a material need for money or for women or something like a base desire, like a base lack, the only thing that will save you is going on a quest in service of other people. If you have other people depend on you, it'll force you to go on that journey. Because for most guys, if they don't have a major crisis, solving your own boredom or solving your own angst isn't a good enough reason. To go through the discomfort of digging deep and exploring your unconscious is not a good enough reason for most guys to do vulnerable, scary, emotionally terrifying things. Whereas if you have children relying on you, or a group relying on you, or some sort of group of people in need or your family or something, or other guys you want to help out, when you have that responsibility, one, it forces you to dig deep, which is what we need. You know, that's where like the internal angst and existential crisis comes from. You want to, like your psyche wants to dig deep. It has to dig deep. You're not going to feel like an adult until you dig deep. Two, it'll keep you on the journey because now it's not your own personally. It's like, oh, those people are relying on me to not fuck up, to not watch porn all day and play video games. Like there's other people who are affected by me fucking off. I better not fuck off. And the third thing is, and this is coming, I mean, from dominant psychology and, you know, power dynamics and stuff, people say that with great power comes great responsibility. And I learned this from Omar Pani, my homie. The number one way to increase your power is to take on responsibility. A lot of people have that backwards. If you are responsible for other people, you automatically have power. And it's not power of like, oh, I'm better than other people. It's like, it's the power that comes with responsibility where you realize that you have an effect on the world and your actions matter. I mean, that's the kind of the whole plot of It's a Wonderful Life, the Christmas movie. Like he realized like, oh shit, like my actions and my life has affected the world. I better not fuck off. I better not kill myself is the ultimate lesson he realized. So rites of passage, you know, if you're feeling like this eternal boy and like the pleasures of life are no longer satisfying you, or like, you know, if sex and money and things that you think should be enjoyable are not doing it for you, chances are you're stuck in this Puer Aeternus state. And the thing that you're calling for likely is to have this hero's journey where you have to dig deep, and you can create your own rite of passage by seeking out some way to serve other people. It can be mentoring a child, it can be volunteering, it can be creating a charity, it can be going on an adventure, it can be finding a way to get involved in something that affects other people. And you will not only solve your existential angst, you'll also rise in real personal power. Yeah. So if you want to learn more about archetypal masculinity, you can check out my 21-day masculine archetype challenge. The link is below, and make sure you subscribe for more videos on archetypal masculinity, personal growth, psychology, sex, I don't know, fun stuff. I'll see you in the next video.